Beginner's Guide to Valorant in 2022. We first made this guide a year and a half ago, but unsurprisingly, Valorant is a whole different game from back then, and as such, a new guide is much needed. So here it is. In this guide, we'll be covering all the essentials that every Valorant player must know in order to make a smooth transition into the game. So if you're a veteran player watching this thinking, but I already know most of these things, these are like the most important things you have to know in order to be good at Valorant. Well, yeah, that's kind of the point. But if you're an intermediate player wanting to freshen up on the basics or a new one wanting to learn the game, this guide is just perfect for you. So make sure to like and subscribe, and let's get right into it. The first thing we'll quickly go over is the game modes. The first two shown in the menu are unrated and competitive. Both of these two game modes are very similar, or essentially the same. The only difference being that the competitive will place you in a rank and cannot be played until you reach at least level 20, which will take quite a while. And in competitive, as this is a ranked and rated game mode, overtimes, which can happen if after 24 rounds no team has won, will be a bit longer in order to be more fair. But more about that and the game mode itself later. Generally, this is considered to be the main game mode of Valorant and is the normal way to play the game. They have a primary objective which depends on your side, and both of these have different objectives, which we'll talk about later. Both teams get 12 rounds on each side, or at least until one of the two teams wins 13 rounds total. The two sides are attacker and defender, which we'll go more in depth about in this mode later. Also in the lobby are two party game modes, one permanent, one being Spike Rush, and one being a rotating other game mode. Spike Rush is a faster variant of the normal game mode, with also a lot more chaotic aspects and wacky things happening all at once. Every attacker carries a spike, and orbs that have the potential to massively change the course of a round are spawned all over the map. People play this game mode to relax from the stress and pressure from normal games and play Valorant in a more chill setting. The other party game, like I mentioned, is rotational and changes over the course of the year, although currently it is Escalation, that being a goofy deathmatch style party game where two teams compete to finish the arms race first. You'll start with standard guns like the Vandal and Phantom, but eventually you'll have to kill with Sova shock darts, raise boombots, and other chaos-inducing abilities. Perhaps it's not the best game mode to practice, but it sure as hell is fun.
5-star Esper? 5-star Esper? Oh my.
Also in the lobby are two other main game modes, that being Deathmatch and Custom Games. Deathmatch is basically a practice tool. If you die, you respawn in 1.5 seconds, and you can buy any gun you like at all times. There's no teams, and the first person to 40 kills wins. People use this to practice their gun skill, relax, or simply work on their mechanics like aim and movement. Custom games are another tool that you can use to practice on your own empty maps, but more often than not, it's used to play with and against friends, or to play 5v5 games team versus team. Lastly, to the left of the start button, there will always be a smaller gray button that allows you to enter the range, where you have a shooting range and two practice tools both for planting and defusing the spike. More about that later. So now that we've established the lobby, let's talk about the normal game mode and its objective. So in Valorant Ranked and Unrated, the goal is pretty simple and depends on your side. Generally, a round can be won in one of two ways, and you need 13 rounds total in order to win a game. Firstly, you can simply eliminate all 5 of your opponents as the game is played 5 versus 5. If your team is the last one standing without the other team having completed the objective beforehand, your team wins the round. If you're on the attacker team, your goal is to bring the spike, which can be picked up in spawn by a player at the start of the round to one of the bomb sites. Plant the spike there and let it explode. The defenders are trying to do the exact opposite, which is prevent the attackers from planting the spike, and otherwise defuse it before it explodes. If they manage to force the attackers to run out of time, which by the way is a minute 40, the defenders also win. So yeah, pretty simple stuff. Two teams, one is trying to get onto a bomb site and plant the bomb, and the others are trying to prevent that. In order to balance the game, the attackers are spawned further away from the bomb sites, meaning that the defenders have the advantage of being able to hold their ground and set up for an inevitable attack, while attackers have the advantage of being able to bring bigger numbers to a site. There's multiple bomb sites, which all should be held by the defensive site, and that while the attackers know where they want to go and the defenders don't. Alright, so before you actually start playing games, there's a few more things we should discuss. That being the fundamentals, some rules of the game, how the economy works, how the different agents and roles they fill, and lastly the different maps. But before we do that, let's quickly go over our question of the day. Today's question being, when did you start playing Valorant? Personally for me, I started playing all the way back on the first day of beta, and I've been playing ever since. So what about you guys? When did you start? Make sure to comment when you started down below in the comment section. In order to defend or get onto these sites, 4 things are very important: aiming, crosshair placement, movement, and abilities. The first 3 we'll talk about now. Valorant is a tactical shooter, which makes not only tactics important, but also mostly shooting. In order to shoot straight and have success, these 3 concepts of aiming, crosshair placement, and movement are important. Aim is what everyone instantly thinks about right away when they think about shooters, and generally it's just about being able to place your crosshair on targets. In Valorant, that being enemies and enemy abilities. Aim is important because if your aim isn't very good, it's easy to lose duels against players that you may have even outplayed tactically. Aim can be practiced in a multitude of ways, the most effective one being using aim trainers like lifelabs. But you can also use practice tools like the range or deathmatch. We won't talk about training your aim too much in this video as we only have so much time. But if you want to improve that specifically, we have plenty of guides on our channel. So simply subscribe to keep up to date and check out the rest of our channel for our aim guides. Crosshair placement is another super important concept, arguably even more important than aiming, as it helps lessen the need for raw aim in a major way.